Welcome, everybody, to today's Building My Legacy podcast. I have with me today Bryan Daly. Bryan Daly, I have gotten to know because I'm a part of his networking group. It's called Epic Business Connections. And he has really worked hard to look at the whole concept of networking and making it more meaningful to people who participate. So it's not just a meet and greet, shake hands, which we haven't done now for quite some time, but more than just meet and greet, and looking at how do we develop a relationship so we can actually build business. And that's something that's a little bit more difficult to do. And then the other thing that Bryan has is a company. He's founder of NLFA. I don't know what those stand for. It's in your background as well. And it's a financial company. But what's interesting about that is it's a fee-only investment advisory platform, no product commissions. So that makes you very interesting. And so with those two perspectives, I would like you to talk about how did you get started doing both, either, and then we'll talk a little bit more about what you've envisioned for your business connections with Epic, where you're going to go with that. So, Bryan, Wonderful. How did you get started?
Well, it was interesting. What do they say? Necessity is the mother of invention. 2008, I had a mortgage company, and we were doing really well. And of course, the wheels fell off that business. And I really needed to reinvent myself. And I'm returning back to my roots, financial planning, but I didn't have anyone to talk to. I didn't have any appointments. I was really starting all over again. A friend in town ran a BNI style networking group and invited me to the group. And I said, well, let me think about it. I'll give you an answer tomorrow, because it was every Wednesday, meet for breakfast at 6 a.m. and a little bit of a commitment. Let me think about it. So I called the next day and he said, sorry, the spot's already been taken. So I said, I'll start my own group. And at the same time, a friend of mine sent me a connection request on LinkedIn. And I was so clueless. I called my friend up and I said, Frank, what is this like it in thing? And how does it work? He said, well, I'm not sure how it works, but I thought it would be good if we had each other's contact information. I'm like, Frank, I've known you for years. I have all your contact information. He said, well, I don't know. So I said, well, let me fool around with this thing. And I started fooling around with LinkedIn and using and leveraging LinkedIn to build the business and referral groups. And at first we were praying for people to come, and then we were praying for people to stop, because we went Jupiter, Gardens, West Palm, North Palm, Boca, Del Rey, Fort Lauderdale, Miami, Orlando, Tampa, Jacksonville. We currently have 5 national groups, 22 in Florida, and 50 cities throughout the country.
It's amazing.
So it is. So really the short story is I needed to have people to talk to. And that was the way I use the business networking to fill my appointment book. And I've never, since 2008, I have never worried about where I was going to get appointments from.
Wow. Okay. So, and that is, for most businesses, that's their number one issue is, where do I get that next sale, right?
Right.
So, Bryan, as you started the networking group, you conceived it in a slightly different way. You have the BNI experience. So let's talk a little bit about what's different about what you did and are doing, and where do you see networking potentially going?
Well, I'm an admirer of BNI and the networking group, although there's a lot of things about the BNI style that just didn't fit for me, the rules, et cetera. So what I said was, let's put all the things in that I like about BNI, and in other groups that I've come in contact along the way, and let's leave out all the other things that I don't like. So no dues, no fees, no mandatory meetings. And we generally don't have many rules Be courteous, be kind, be professional, the sort of common sense, common courtesy type rules. But really, I learned about networking by reading Bob Berg's books, Endless Referrals, Go Giver, and B&I's books, Dr. Ivan Meisner's books. For $30-$40 worth of books, you can learn a lot about networking, which always surprised me, Lois, because so many people will spend so much time networking, invest so much time, but yet not sit down for a couple of hours and read a couple of books and get all of Dr. Ivan Meisner's knowledge by reading his book, or Bob Berg and reading his book. I don't think I have to tell you that, because you look like you've got a library full of books. But anyway, I get off my soapbox. I think that if folks would read some of the books, their effectiveness in life and business, especially with networking. Dr. Ivan Meisner's book, Networking Like a Pro, fantastic book. In fact, if they were only to read 2 books, I would read The Go Giver by Bob Berg and Networking Like a Pro from Dr. Ivan Meisner. Got it.
So tell me, what makes networking work for some people, and other people I watch and I go, I don't think networking is going to ever work for them. So what's the difference?
Well, first is a couple things. Is the right mindset. Bob Berg gives you the mindset, the go giver, right? It's all about giving, and the whole spiritual idea behind givers will always gain, right? Supporting Dr. Ivan Meisner. And anything of real value only multiplies when it's given freely. Deepak Chopra said in 7 Laws of Spiritual Success that rule number 2 was the law of giving and receiving. And anything of true value only multiplies when it's given freely. Take, for instance, love. Love only multiplies when it's given freely. And that's the basis and foundation. So the right mindset going into it, number 1. Number 2 is it takes time, it takes persistence. And the clue is right in the word, network. It takes effort. So you don't just show up, machine gun people with a bunch of commercials and hope to get a check and fulfill an order, make a sale, that sort of thing. And I think when folks do that, they, the third thing, lastly, the third thing, which is sort of a prerequisite, is you must be referable. You must be competent, professional, and reflect well on the person that's referring. If you don't have all those ingredients, it's not going to work for you.
Be referable. That's so true. We don't always think about what it is that we're putting forward in terms of, will people want it? And does it have value for somebody else? I think for me, another thing that goes with it is gratitude. And I think that's part of that spirit of generosity, is that also sense of coming back and being grateful for what people have done for you.
Yeah.
Where do you see going next with what you're trying to do with Epic? I know you're doing a lot with building relationships and mini networks within the network. So tell the audience a little bit about that, why you're doing that, and how it works.
Well, bless you. Right now, the most immediate thing that we're working on our project is you have to make it about the members and the membership and their success. We started a website, and the idea is to collectively bring our group presence on the internet, social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, etc., to be able to multiply and magnify our voices. So for website traffic, to generate more traffic to our members through our collective, for instance, our LinkedIn posting party. We gather in groups or pods, and we comment on one. Now, it's about networking. It's about building relationships. However, at the same time, we're able to boost each other's influence and visibility online, because one person puts up a post and they get 30, 50, 100 comments in the first 10 minutes, they go right to the top of so LinkedIn pushes them out. Same thing with Google My Business, with YouTube reviews, recommendations, and so on, using the collective power. So that's the most immediate thing. And then for the future, I tell you, Lois, the best ideas that we've come up with have come from our members. So always being open to, I like to be in charge of yes instead of being in charge of no. So folks come back to me with ideas and things that they want to do. We started a book club. We've got the Latino connection. We have a faith-based group. We have a whole bunch of different things kind of going on. So in the future, who knows where it'll go?
Okay, that's a lot. So how are you managing that plus another business? That's a lot.
Well, I don't sleep a lot. Just kidding. I do have assistants, and I do have help from admins in the group and virtual assistants and that sort of thing too.
So tell me, what makes networking not work?
Well, where do I begin? Not being referable, not being consistent, not being professional, thinking it's all about you. And if I bring the perfect pitch, right? The elevator pitch, the sales pitch, and so on. And if I go out there and strong arm people to buy my stuff, that doesn't work long term. It's very frustrating. It really comes down. You said it when we first started. It's about relationships. Networking really comes down to two things: relationships and timing. And when those are and timing, because it doesn't matter how great whatever it is that I do or how great your referral sources or so on. If someone's not in the market for or doesn't need that particular service at that time, it's just not going to work.
So true. So, Bryan, one of the things that I've observed is we do tend to get very caught up in what am I doing with my time? How am I using it wisely to grow my business, right? And so part of what you're talking about with that generosity of spirit requires time. And so it's balancing that. How do I make money against how do I build relationships? So speak to that for a moment.
Well, everyone's schedule in life is going to be a little bit different. I think that what folks need to do, what I have done, is I block out times in my calendar specifically dedicated to networking. And I like to do my networking at 8 a.m. It's Eastern, of course, but 8 a.m. to 9, sort of non-business hours. Our LinkedIn posting party is at 7 p.m. So it's sort of outside of those business hours. And then I limit the number of one-on-ones that I do each week so that I can get my work done. So it's got to be that balance. And I also believe that networking requires a little bit of faith to believe that, and I was confident right from the very beginning that I didn't know how long it was going to take, but I would get referrals from my networking efforts. And I think it was 8-9 months before I got my first referral, but I knew it was coming.
So 8-9 months is also quite a bit of time.
Mm-hmm.
That's perseverance and that's patience. In our digital society, 8 months is like an eternity.
You can have a baby. 9 months, you can have a baby, right? So, and it depends on your profession, your occupation. If you're a plumber, you need a plumber. You need a plumber. You got a leak or you got a problem or whatever. For many professional services, a lot of times, they don't necessarily know that they have a need for it. The other thing, Lois, I think is really super, super important is going above and beyond for the service to your clients for that networking grapevine. So I can say whatever I want in the meeting. I can dive deeper, spit further, come up drier than anybody else and pound my chest and how great and wonderful I am. Nobody really believes that. However, when other people are saying that, now it becomes believable. So developing that grapevine, unfortunately for some people it's negative, but developing a very positive and strong grapevine where people go, oh yeah, don't worry about referring Lois or don't referring Eric. They'll make you look good. They'll make you look smart, when you refer them in. So that gives people the confidence to do that.
So I think part of, for me, what I've observed for myself personally is you do look for people that you can leverage. So as I looked at our group in the Business Connections, we've done some really kind of fun things with the Career Summit, the Business Summit, and none of us were people that would have naturally probably come together and said, let's figure out a way of doing something, right? And really the summits were one way in which we got to know each other. And so all I'm saying is part of what I'm learning is there's steps involved. You may take on an activity that won't end up in a direct result in terms of business, but it may open another door or another door.
Right. Absolutely. Well, we've been talking mainly about business and getting a business from the group, et cetera. And it's been extremely rewarding from a business point of view. But it's also been very rewarding from the friendship point of view. There are so many people that I never would have met, never would have become great friends with over the years had it not been for this group. In fact, we just had a couple recently met through the group and got married.
Isn't that fabulous?
Isn't that amazing?
It is.
And prior to the pandemic, when I heard stories about, well, how did you guys meet? Well, we met online. What kind of weirdos are these? They meet online. How could you marry someone? Now, they met online. They also live in Florida. They actually were physically together. Wasn't just an online relationship. But that's what's really powerful today is the high tech and the high touch. And if you can get the right mix of the high tech and the high touch, that becomes magnetic and attractive for more people to come. And the more people that come, everyone brings a network with them. So you never know. I always say that if I was a plumber, would I want to connect with a ballerina? And someone would say, well, ballerinas have plumbing, but no, not really. What if I told you that ballerina's family owned the largest contractor in the state of Florida? Well, that's a different story. So you never know who they know and who they know and who they can introduce you to. So it works.
I just was speaking with a person who helps companies map out their networks for solving business issues. And one of the companies that they were working with was looking for an investor who could help move an idea forward. It was a not-for-profit. And going through and asking the questions of who knows, somebody who can do this, who knows somebody that was not part of the decision-making team, but heard the discussion, said, well, I know George Soros's family. Well, they have foundations. But naturally, they would not have asked because they didn't know. So
interesting.
Isn't that interesting?
Mm-hmm.
And that was within their own reach. So you're absolutely right. We don't know who people are connected with and what doors that will open. Bryan, you are doing a lot with helping different groups within your networking come together and look at how can they build each other's businesses. Tell me a little bit about your thought behind that and where you see that going.
Well, there's several things that folks can do. One is a mastermind, right? 2 heads are better than 1, 3 heads are better than 2, and no one of us is smarter than all of us. I'm not talking about groupthink. I'm talking about really taking a group of professionals and examining a problem and so on. So the sort of that mastermind. The other is the synergy. And the synergy comes from shared clients and shared relationships. So I can piggyback off of someone else's credibility by being introduced. So give you an example. In the financial business, I'll get a phone call from someone that says, hey, I understand you're the man when it comes to 401k. You're highly recommended. We don't have to go through that whole sales dance. They know they want to do business with me. They've chosen me, so what, et cetera. So now we can get right to it and start to build that client relationship.
It makes
great way to do business.
It cuts down. So it took you 8 months to get started, but once you got started, it's that people know you, they already think they like you, so it shortens that sale period of time, doesn't it?
Sure. The visibility, credibility, profitability. That's the VCP model in B&I. That visibility will lead to credibility, and credibility leads to profitability. In fact, you can take that example even a step further and say that, right or wrong, that a lot of visibility will increase their credibility. I'll give you, for instance, the Kardashians. No offense to them. They're all multimillionaire, billionaire, whatever the case may be. They don't sing. They don't dance. They don't cure cancer. They're famous for being famous. However, when they endorse a product, it sells like crazy because they have such incredible visibility. Now, that's an extreme example, but my point is the top of mind awareness to others, where you're kind of being seen all over the place. So they're, even though they might not even know you all that well, they feel like they do because you're out there all over the place. Companies know that in their advertising. That's why they drill the jingle into your head and all that other stuff, so that you have brand recognition. Brand recognition, visibility leads into, oh, well, it must be a great company because I know their jingle, which doesn't make any sense, but that's reality.
Well, we sing the jingle, then we go, oh, yeah, that's right. I need that product.
Yeah, I've heard of them before. Right, exactly. Cool.
What have we left out, Bryan, that we should have talked about relative to networking?
Well, my networking is how I build my financial business, my financial team. My financial team is the conventional wisdom today is badly broken in America, unfortunately. The conventional wisdom has huge gaping holes in it. Things like qualified plans, 401ks, 30-year fixed rate mortgage, the way that people are planning or not planning for retirement. Let me give you an example. Mortgages. Mortgages, a 30-year fixed rate mortgage, a 15-year fixed rate mortgage, most popular mortgages in America today, are robbing people of financial freedom and financial independence. It is the most terrible, inefficient, and deceptive financial tool ever devised by man. You have a 3.5% interest rate on your mortgage. The only place you'll ever see that is on the promissory note. You will never pay 3.5%. The interest that you pay on a mortgage, if you hold it for the whole 30 years, is close to 60%. That's terrible. Now, if I said, Lois, we're going to start a mortgage company, we're going to tell everybody we're going to charge them 3.5%, but really we're going to charge them 60%, they'd probably send us to jail. But yet they've been getting away with it forever. And most people just think rate, term, what's my interest rate, what's my payment, et cetera. And it gets even worse because most people refinance or move every 5 to 7 years. So a 30-year mortgage becomes a 50, 60-year mortgage. Well, there's a better way to do things. And that better way is pay off that mortgage in 9 years or less with a different type of a loan. Been popular in Europe and Australia and Canada for decades, just hasn't been popularized yet here in America. For the same monthly payment, instead of being in debt for 30 years, be out of debt in 9 years or less.
I think, so I want to talk about that just a little bit, because I think right now with what's going on in the world, more and more you're hearing people say, get rid of debt, become as strong financially as you possibly can. Put yourself in a position where if you need access to cash, you can have access to cash. So, Bryan, you work with people anywhere in the country, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And who cannot take advantage of the services that you have to offer?
Well, if someone is gainfully employed, we can help them.
Okay.
If they're not gainfully employed, we can help some of those people as well, depending on the reasons that they're not gainfully employed. Circumstances beyond their, because we are hiring. We are always looking for good quality people who have intelligence and integrity, because we can train them on the financial business. So in many cases, we call that our baby boomer retirement rescue. For people who haven't saved enough, they can supplement their income by becoming a referral agent with us. So they're like layers of the onion. Yeah.
Talk about that for a moment, if you would, please.
Sure. So it's no secret that most people are retiring dead or dead broke in America today. They're failing financially, and it's because the system is rigged against them. However, we show folks how to turn the system to their favor, how the banks and the insurance companies, Wall Street is not their friend. And if they share that information with others, those people become clients. They can get paid for having marketed and directed those sales towards us. And they could use that to supplement or fund a retirement.
Got it. And how many years prior to retirement does one need to start working with you for that to work?
It could happen relatively quickly. To develop a $25,000 to $50,000 part-time revenue stream, someone can do that in 6 months or less. Now, if you think about what does it take to develop a $50,000 pension, a lot of people work 20, 30 years to get a $50,000 a year pension. They could do that in their first year with us on a part-time basis. So that's the what we call the retirement rescue. Pare down their expenses, get rid of all their debt, bring in an extra $25,000, $50,000 a year in income. They could retire anytime they want. And then if you add that to Social Security, I mean, it's not lifestyles of the rich and famous, but it's certainly better than a sharp stick in the eye.
So tell me, we have entrepreneurs who listen to this, as well as people who are at the retirement part of their life. And so what I'm hearing you say is this could come into a company. It could be a service company-wide that would be offered. Is that correct?
Yeah, we do. We also do executive compensation planning. We do 401k. We do 401k makeovers, and we do 401k takeovers as well. So the investment, the insurance, the mortgage side, all the way around. And so, the way we do business is through referral.
401 takeover would mean what? Taking over a 401 that's already in place, repositioning it so it's in a stronger position. So if you compared what you do with a traditional, what's the difference in terms of value to the person who would own it?
Well, in the area of the 401k, we're doing MEP, which is called multiple employer plans. We're basically taking the collective, and smaller companies are able to take advantage of big size 401ks with great investment choices, lower expenses and fees, and all of the bells and whistles that a small company couldn't normally buy into. But really what makes us different, Lois, is going to sound kind of crazy. It really comes down to common sense and a deep evaluation where we have questioned everything. In other words, we didn't swallow anything as gospel when it came to financial planning. We question everything and keep our eyes open for better ways to do things. The mortgage loan program that I'm talking about has been here in this country since 2005. They've billions of dollars worth of business. And one of the most astonishing things about that loan, they have not had a single default or foreclosure on any one of their loans.
Wow.
So it's safer and people are paying it off faster. So
do you think the fact that it's being paid off faster is what makes it safer?
One of the reasons, yes.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. So what I am fascinated by is you have built this financial business. You began building it through your networking, and then you brought a product that to the network that has incredible value, right? So for those of you who are listening to this podcast, there will be information about Bryan and how to get in contact with him. So you can reach him either about his Epic Business Connections or about his financial services program. And so from referring, people can make money from referring. They can also use you in terms of strengthening their business and their investments, correct?
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Lois. You hit it.
So if you have any trouble getting a hold of Bryan, please let me know. I'll be glad to get you in contact with Bryan. I think there are so many, I think part of what works against the finance business is, well, the same thing that works against networking at times or anything, and that is people's fear of being taken advantage of.
Yeah.
Right? And so having somebody who really has a heart to work with people and has a track record. The other thing that I think is so good to know about Bryan is he has a background in taxation. Yeah. So today's world, taxes are going up. And so knowing somebody who can help you make the right decisions and choices based also on your taxes, I think is important.
And I think one of the biggest challenges too is most people think they have to go on a financial diet in order to have a plan. And what we do is we show them how to redirect dollars they're already spending to do it more effectively and more efficiently and have much better outcomes without going on a financial diet. In other words, we want to rescue, renovate, and refine financial plans so that people don't have to sacrifice current lifestyle to live a better life later. And that's what most people think that's what it's all about.
So that's
not.
Yeah. One last thing that you talk about is the $1 million baby. Some of our listeners are grandparents or their parents, and they're thinking, wow, I've got to plan for these kids in a different way. So talk about your $1 million baby.
$1 million baby, near and dear to my heart. I love one of my favorite programs because the impact that you can have on a child is absolutely tremendous because you're able to compound, grow small contributions over time. We're talking about 30, 40, 50, 60 years of compounding and to do it in a way that's income tax free. It also allows the grandchild, the ability to set up their own bank. So now they borrow from themselves, whether it's cars, boats, homes, whatever. And instead of paying back GMAC or Nissan Motor Corp, they get to keep all the principal, all the interest, and all the earnings they pay themselves back. That is, we could solve America's retirement crisis if the government or someone would contribute $2,000 to every child who was born into an account that grew tax-free until age 65. So compounded for 65 years, there's always $1 million or more. Amazing.
It is amazing.
Yeah, the power of compounding.
Bryan, you've done some incredible work. Anything else that we've left out that we should have covered?
No, I appreciate all that. That was wonderful. Thank you so much. I really went by fast for me. I hope it went by that fast for everybody else.
It was fabulous. And so Those of you who are listening, thank you for listening to Building My Legacy podcast today. And remember, we will have information about Bryan in the show notes. Please contact him for either Epic Business Connections or for the financial vehicle that he provides. So thanks very much, Bryan, for being with us.
Awesome. Thank you, Lois.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching my video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the bell button above. Leave comments. We'd love to hear what you think. And visit our other social media links as well. Thanks much.